I mean, we don't need to play this interview if you don't want to, Sean. If you want to, we can, but all right, yeah. It's because we were talking controversial religion, bro. They just couldn't handle it. Okay, I hear you. So the bishop of the DC church comes out and says, "I can't believe what my eyes just have seen." She says that she wasn't informed that this was going to happen. She wasn't given an opportunity to speak on this. If she were to have been given an opportunity to speak on this, she would not have approved such a demonstration. She obviously is not a Trump supporter for sure prior to this, and she certainly isn't after this as well. Kelly just said, oh goodness, that Bible got you kicked off Facebook. I think that's correct. So, look, if you just joined us back again, we just played the clip of Trump after he delivered this speech. He walked across the street. He held this Bible in front of St. John's Church. The story that we're getting now, again, just to recap, is that tear gas was fired upon protesters in front of the church to disperse the crowd so that this little scene could be set up. The church's bishop has now been interviewed after the fact, and I think one would clearly say she wasn't a Trump supporter prior to this happening. She certainly isn't after this happened as well, because she said that she didn't approve this. She wasn't advised of this. She would not have approved of this demonstration if she were to have been asked beforehand. That her take was a bit of a stunt. And I just want to pause there for a second, man, and I don't know. It's you know, I don't know, man. I kind of want to get a response from the audience first to see how they feel. Say it again, Sean. Yes, please do. Please do, man.
Okay, I'll try to be as quick as possible because I feel like you and Zig could probably give better opinions than me. But I do feel like we're spending a lot more time talking about rights than we are talking about responsibilities. Rights don't happen in a vacuum, and they don't happen because they're written on a piece of paper. They happen when people acknowledge human behavior and the way humans act, and then try to, make sure they act in a way that keeps everybody normal. Because rights can only happen in a peaceful place. You don't get rights in places where people feel unsafe, they can't do business, they're afraid to come out of their homes. You don't get rights in a place like that. And we all have a responsibility to make sure our communities are not places like that. Or because the way humans naturally are, is people will demand someone with a big stick make them safe. That is the way humans always will work, period. So, I think we're talking a lot about rights like they're just supposed to happen just because, that's the right thing to do. That's not the way it works. We have a responsibility to make the world the kind of place where rights can exist, right? And I feel like there's a whole lot. I know it made everyone uncomfortable what happened yesterday, but they're not acknowledging that there's a substantial portion of people in this country, and I'm not saying they're the protesters. I'm saying that there are people who are not trying to be heard. They're trying to make us all afraid, and maybe even trying to make the rights go away. We don't know, right? That could be the goal. The goal could be they are acknowledging human behavior better than we are as a culture. Maybe they know if we do X, Y will happen, and we're ignoring it, right? That's my opinion, is we're talking a lot about rights of protesters, First Amendment, all this stuff, but we have a responsibility, and you don't get rights without people taking on the responsibility of creating a world where rights can exist. Our founding fathers did it. Heroes throughout American history have done it. Great compromisers have done it. People like Henry Clay and, I don't know, lots of legislators who have kept bad things from happening. The reason they kept bad things from happening is they didn't want people to lose their rights. And just think about all the times in America where things have gotten a little bit dangerous. The moment it got dangerous, we set up an internment camp for Japanese people in the out west during World War II, right? The moment things get dangerous, people's rights go away. So we have a responsibility to try to keep our communities safe. And if we're going to be protesting, to not be violent. Because the natural reaction of people is to ask for an authoritarian type response. I mean, just look throughout history, that is what happens. And I'm not saying that makes anything right. What I'm saying is we need to acknowledge human behavior and the way people will act, not the way we want them to.
Zig, again, buddy, we didn't prep Zig on any of this, by the way.
No.
So we're literally throwing Zig into the full on deep end here, man. But he's certainly more than equipped to handle it. Dude, where are you coming from on this?
Well, I think in general, the overall issue from the beginning of the COVID response until now is this idea that people should ever be made afraid of anything. To me, the greatest, biggest, most threatening tyrant is fear. Okay, fear is the ultimate tyrant, and when we allow the media and other people to make us afraid continually all the time, then yes, you will see a erosion of rights, because when you're afraid, you become closed-minded. You lose that open-mindedness, and you can't properly consider what's actually happening and going on in the world. So I think that's typically where I come from. I think it's immoral for the media to continually make people afraid all the time to sell advertisements for pills and clothing.
Mm.
Okay, then that's immoral.
Let me be totally honest with the Real News audience right here. I mean, I'm probably about to say something that a lot of people are not going to necessarily agree with, but look, man, vulnerability breeds vulnerability. It's a theme of today's show. And I in that sense of vulnerability, I have a very bad problem with being a people pleaser. Totally honest. I have a very bad problem with tempering my opinions on political topics, on certain other topics that I probably should be much more honest about, because I'm afraid of offending select few individuals or the entirety of everyone. Now, the terrible paradox about that is that if I live my entire life that way, I'm never going to please anybody. I'm never going to please a single individual, because I'm stuck in this conundrum of trying to please everyone. Here's my opinion on this, man. I didn't like it. Give me 2 seconds and I'll explain, okay? I didn't like it. Now, that's not to say that I disagree with using a demonstration of religion, especially Christianity, in what I believe to be the fundamental foundations of this nation being Judeo-Christian in nature. I believe we are a nation of Christians, not necessarily a Christian nation. That is an important distinction. I would not have had the problem if Trump did exactly what I just coasted a little while ago, brought in that pastor, that bishop, from the church that was burned down, to a meeting with some of the protesters, some of his staff, some of the businesses that had been burnt down, put them all in the Oval Office together, chat some of this stuff out, and have that bishop pray over everyone when that thing is done. I wouldn't have had a problem with that demonstration at all. Hold up a Bible while you're doing that. To be completely honest here, though, man, this is where I'm going to upset some people. What happened yesterday felt a little bit exploitive. It felt a little bit like it was chumming some of the base. I get it, man. I totally understand. But when you walk across the street, and if it is true that there was protesters that were dispelled in the forefront, I just don't know, man. Is this okay? So take the spiritual component out of it for me. Follow me for a second here. It's a bad PR move. It was just terrible spin, man. Like, to not be able to, if I'm heading some consultant group or something, to not be able to account for the fact that, like, President Trump, dude, by the way, just so you know, like, we had to literally, tear gas a bunch of folks out here, and this pastor doesn't know we're about to do this, and she doesn't exactly agree with you. She probably votes Democrat most of the time. Like, you may at least want to reconsider a little bit, or at least just tread lightly, or at least trying to figure out a slightly different angle here. It's just a bad PR spin. Is maybe possibly the only point I'm making. Now, here's the reason why I asked that important question, Zig, at the very end. Like, I don't necessarily know if any of that matters. I don't think any of that matters. And here's why I say, bro, Trump is a reaction to the free market. Trump is an economic reaction to what Republicans have felt for 40 or 50 years. The Republican voice, the silent majority, has been squelched. They have been suffocated for close to 50 years. There has been no such thing as the legislature for 50 years. You want to know why these legislators are able to be elected and not do a single thing with their jobs? Because we haven't asked them to do anything for 50 years, man. You've been running ramshot every single major societal change through the judicial branch. What do you need a legislature for? You don't need a legislature. You don't need a voice of the people. Trump is a market force reaction, in the same sense that I think sensationalism is unsustainable. All this stuff is unsustainable, man. But we cannot afford to be so naive that we didn't think Republicans not necessarily wanted this, but they get it. They might like it a little bit. They might, in not necessarily even the sense of a revenge or retribution, but they might just say, like, how does it feel? They might just think to themselves, like, I've been screaming in the wind for a little while, and this guy's the first guy that's stepping up and defending. This is what I'm saying, y'all. This is why I'm asking everyone to drop pride a little bit and try and see what the other side is seeing. What actually happened is that protesters were tear gassed for what amounted to a slight spectacle. And on the other side, if someone is saying like, yeah, that probably needed to happen because they burnt the thing down last night, man. They burn it. They tried to burn it to the ground last night. This is utter chaos. This is pure anarchy. Is not the best word I like, but it's utter it's pandemonium, man. It's utter chaos. I'll kick it back to Zig or Sean, but you guys understand where I'm coming from, right, man? Like, I didn't like the display. It felt disingenuous at best. It felt like they was exploiting a situation at worst. And I think there were much, much better ways to do it, is all I'm saying.
Part of the issue here for me is that a lot of people claim that they want transparency, but when you have all these TV cameras around all the time, you don't get transparency, you get publicity, and people seeking publicity. And publicity is not the same as transparency, and advertisement is not the same as the thing itself. So my issue is with the continuous publicity-seeking nature of the executive branch, people buying into people seeking publicity for what amounts to political theater. I think if people want things like true transparency, at least in politics, you have to read. Okay, it's the concepts, it's the ideas that breed transparency. It's not a video display from Fox News or CNN that brings transparency. And I hope that resonates with people, is that there's a fundamental distinction between transparency and publicity. And I think that's the issue, publicity.
Judy just said in Facebook, that's what really bothers me. What Facebook allows and doesn't has always been said over and over. So slanted. I think that was referencing, just got shut down a second ago. I'm not entirely sure. Kelly said, yes, absolutely. Kelly went on to say that's what should have happened. It was a show. Sherry just said in Facebook, he said he is the president of law and order. Isn't the Bible the ultimate law? Shine, let me kick it to you, buddy. See where you're coming from this. Because I said some stuff that's like, it's strong opinions, man. It really is. It is super strong opinions. And I hope people would take me seriously with the background that I have of having a Bible degree and having a law degree as well, right? Of understanding both sides of this spectrum, both sides of this particular coin. I don't understand a lot, but this particular coin is something that I like to say that I probably understand, the side of biblical stuff and the side of law stuff, and hopefully how those two worlds can interact together. And I don't know, man, I let my opinion fly out there. Maybe I'm wrong, maybe I'm not. But Sherry brings up a point. This is where she's coming from. He said he is the president of law and order. There's clearly allowance in the Insurrection Act for this to be done. We just did it in 1992. There's a list of when we did this previously. Okay?
Well, I just want to chime in real quick. I don't think it's automatically the case that law brings order. Okay? I don't think that people can affiliate law and order to be the same thing. In fact, if you had a well-ordered society, you wouldn't need as many laws to start with. Okay, the reason why laws get implemented is because things get disorderly. So this idea that some authorities are about law and order, I think that's a contradiction. I think it's a fundamental contradiction. Just supporting the police doesn't mean you're for order. You might be for law, but that doesn't mean that you're for order. I don't know if that makes any sense, but I think it's worth stating that law and order don't necessarily go hand in hand, and they shouldn't necessarily go hand in hand.
I know, man, and maybe I'm just being a little bit too simplistic about the entirety of all this. Maybe I'm just not recognizing. Yeah, Shine, go ahead and hit this mixture. Well, let me say this real quick, and then we'll hit the mixture comments, man. I do need to be honest about where I'm coming from too. I think for real, like, more honesty is going to be a helpful solution to all this. I'm trying to direct people back to be these, ministers of restoration. I choose that word restoration and not reconciliation, okay? Because I'm not trying to reconcile the past of these two people. I think we have an unforgivable past in this country. I think to not recognize that is not just, again, being disingenuous, you're being dishonest. Whoever is being dishonest, that we do have an unforgivable past of this history of this country. Not to say that I'm personally responsible for that. Who knows? To say that I'm benefiting from that somehow right now. Who knows, man? I'll tell you this, there's as much, poor white people in Appalachia struggling right now in this state than there might be otherwise. I don't necessarily know if it has to be a racial thing as much as it has to be a socioeconomic thing. But the point that I'm making is, man, further causing division, I don't think is the solution, even if it helps to win political points. I guess all I'm saying is I just don't think we should be sacrificing unity and the strength that comes along with that right now for the sake of some political points otherwise, as good as it feels. And I may be wrong about that, man. I feel like I get both sides of that coin, the spiritual coin and the political coin. I don't like the idea of using the Insurrection Act. I don't. But something was going to happen here, man. Shine, real quick before we hit this. I've been holding on this clip all day long. Shine, can you do me a favor, buddy? Go to the top of the show notes here, man. And I know we're almost past 10, but whatever. Go to the top of the show notes. It says the thoughts that I left you with yesterday. All right. When I said yesterday, it says right there, don't believe me, how I'm feeling. Or sorry, it says, don't believe me. Listen to this clip from Polk County officers. All right. There's a video clip right there. It's a Fox clip. Pull that up when you got that ready. Because when I said before, violence begets violence, I think that was the only inevitable conclusion that we were going to come to. And if it wasn't the Insurrection Act, it was going to be a bunch of people armed. And maybe the latter is better than the former for you. That's fine. We can have that constitutional argument all day long. And I might agree with you that an armed populace is always going to be better than forcing the hand of the government. I might always agree with you that an armed populace and a strong Second Amendment is always going to be a better solution than enacting the Insurrection Act, of instilling quasi-martial law in this country. I might always agree with you, but the point still remains that violence was going to beget violence. What do you think happened in the LA riots? Asian, Korean-owned restaurant businesses didn't sit on top of those businesses with long rifles for days to protect their business. You think that didn't happen?
That's good. Let's go to the video.
Go to the video real quick. Go ahead, Sean. Listen to this.
We have received information in social media that some of the criminals were going to take their criminal conduct into the neighborhoods. I would tell them, if you value your life, you probably shouldn't do that in Polk County, because the people of Polk County like guns. They have guns. I encourage them to own guns, and they're going to be in their homes tonight with their guns loaded. And if you try to break into their homes to steal, to set fires, I'm highly recommending they blow you back out of the house with their guns. So leave the community alone. And we'll do our best to support the community. But ladies and gentlemen, make no mistake about it. All of that ugliness has taken away from what we're united about. We're united about the conduct that you saw with George, where his life was taken with a knee to the neck. It's horrific, and there's not enough words to explain that. Let's keep the focus on that.
You see what I'm saying, Sean? Like, I know I probably upset some people with my opinion on Trump doing the Bible thing yesterday. I know people may not be following me because Mr. Henry used to do the children's ministry thing. How are you not supporting such an act of holding the Bible up above everything else? I don't know, man. It just seemed... Yeah, go ahead, Sean, please. Go ahead.
Well, I don't know. And I may offend some people too. I'm going to take a little bit of a different take, but like, it's hard to have a take, right? An opinion about things that are going on right now without offending people. So I'm going to take that and take it off my head and throw it on the floor and not care about it anymore, because I don't care if I offend anybody. I'm the only one that has to live with my opinions. I think it was a introduction to reality, Grant. I think there's a lot of well-meaning people who have no idea about the things that they could cause by their actions. I don't think they have any idea what could happen to them personally. I don't think they have any idea about what could happen 10 years from now if they're put on some kind of list because they're part of some kind of insurrection. I think there's a lot of people LARPing. Well-meaning people who care.
Sorry, dude. I really hate to interrupt, Sean. Tell him what you mean by LARPing. That's such an important concept. It really drives the point home.
So is anyone ever driven by a park and saw people surrounded in styrofoam hitting each other with large foam swords? That's live action role-playing. It's like D&D, but in real life. I think some of these people are live action role-playing as a civil rights crusader, and they're not actually thinking about winning. They're not thinking about even the high moral things that they would like to be thinking about. They're live action role-playing what their heroes, what they think their heroes did, which is even weirder. But I think yesterday, and when that walk happened, all those people got a heavy dose of reality that the U.S. government can remove you from their property anytime they want. And they can do it quickly. And the fact that they haven't and let you destroy property is because you live in a great country. But it needed to be shown to the people who aren't rioting, who aren't protesting, that if at any point we needed to disperse a crowd, it could be done. It probably also needed to be shown to the world, which is also something that nobody is thinking about is like, what do you think if you're a country that has thought about attacking us for the past 15 years? Wouldn't now be a great time? Wouldn't now seem like a really smart time to do that? President Trump probably needed to show other people in the world that he can disperse a crowd when he needs to, so that we aren't vulnerable to attack. And I'm not trying to make anything sound better than it was. What I'm bringing up are uncomfortable, shadow-like facts that are behind us that we don't want to acknowledge because we're afraid of sounding insensitive in some way. But this show is, my mission for this show is bring reality back. Drop your ideology. I would even say at certain points, flex your principles and juxtapose them with reality. Stop pretending like things are not the way they are and start dealing with things as the way they are. I think it was very important for the president from a national security standpoint to show that if I want to, I can walk out of the White House right now and walk across the street anytime I want. It's not that bad. We're just letting people protest. But there was a feeling for about 24 hours that the U.S. was like going down. I don't know if you read foreign newspapers over the past 2 days. I have. Everyone else is stuck in their own bubble about how they feel and how everyone else feels. Start thinking about what really bad things could happen. And then think about what has been done. And then ask yourself, well, maybe people are just trying to keep really bad things from happening. And some of those really bad things could even be these well-meaning people who don't know what could happen to them. They need to see that they could get hit. I mean, there was a young girl who participated in a protest in Pennsylvania last night who lost her sister in a moment because protesters started shooting into a crowd. Jeez. There are people out there thinking that they're changing the world, and maybe they are, but they don't know the price that can be paid. And people need to know what price has to be paid. I mean, people need to know that. They can't think, I mean, should we really be telling young kids, hey, by the way, this is America. If you go out and protest, nothing bad's going to happen to you. No. After days of rioting and looting, I told a lot of my friends yesterday, stay away. They're going to start hurting people because that's the way humans react to their cities burning down, right? But anyway, I think that whole Trump thing was not like a show of force, bravado. It had nothing to do with politics, bro. I think it was showing the world that I can walk out of my front yard when I want to. I'm just allowing these people to protest. I'm allowing them to burn trash cans in front of the White House. But at any time, they're all gone. Because that's the power of the U.S. government. Because you don't want people to think you're powerless, right? That's not good. It could mean danger for all of us. Real danger. Not the danger of a few thousand people nationwide starting trash can fires, but something far more dangerous.
Zig, let me bring you into this, man. I think you've spoken a little bit to the Bible situation, but insurrection in general. Maybe speak a little bit to what you thought about a second ago of that Polk County officer basically saying, like, if it's not us, it's going to be folks arming themselves with the Second Amendment.
Oh, that's the thing, though. Everyone should already be armed, and therefore no one should have anything to fear. The whole fear is unnecessary. If you are armed, there is nothing to be afraid of. Like, I don't understand why people can't be armed and not be afraid, and instead voluntarily disarm themselves and let other people come to their business and smash their windows in. That doesn't make any sense. Okay, arm yourself, be confident in yourself, the nation, your business. And that way we don't have to have the high social cost of all this fear and paranoia being broadcast endlessly for what seems like forever. That is the issue.
I do hope there's going to be some sense of calming all this down fairly soon, man. I do. I just don't know how long we can continually operate and push through this. And I don't know, man. Like, again, saying what I said before, it might have offended some people, but hey, man, there's a first time for everything. Right, Gabby? My wife's sitting right over there. It's probably the first time ever I might have offended someone in my entire life, but whatever. It's how I feel, man.
Grant, let me say, what's the difference really between Trump holding up a Bible and a lot of people using the tragic death of a man in Minneapolis to commit violence against their neighbors? What's the difference between, in fact, I'd say it's like, at least he was holding up a Bible other people are holding up a dead man and saying, I can commit violence. And that's tragic. I mean, it really is. And as far as symbols go, what other symbols would you want him to use, Grant?
Well, I guess I'll put it this way, man. Like, I just to enact the Insurrection Act, to let's not call it violence, but let's call it equal reaction, if we want to call it for that. Okay, to couple that on the back end with something like the Bible, a message of hope and positivity and care and new creation, right, and new covenant and sacrificial atonement and everything positive that comes and is associated with that book. It just seems to me, I don't want to say cheap necessarily, man, but it just doesn't fit the context, I think is what I'm saying. And that's I think what's so perplexing to me about the entire situation. I can't find the connection between what he left, which is a clearly political situation, to what he entered into next, which is a clearly spiritual realm. Right. And I don't necessarily know it. I suppose in the one sense, man, if you had a pastor praying over, or if you could possibly connect those dots a little bit more or something, or if we had some sense of, maybe he was saying like God's in control of all this or something. I suppose, I don't know, man, but I don't know. It just something at my core, I think, didn't necessarily feel correct about it, because it doesn't line up necessarily with what I believe to be the inherent or forward-facing message of the Gospels. The forward-facing message of the Gospel is not something of division. It's something of inclusion. The forward-facing message of that good news is, yes, through pain and struggle and turmoil, our feet are cut and lacerated, but it is to bring that good news to the populace, so that we can all join, so that we can all hear, and to couple that with a message of squelching half the nation, at least what they saw it as. That's probably not true, but at least the way that they interpreted that, it just doesn't scream to me a message of inclusivity. It doesn't scream to me a message of being saved from something. You know what I'm saying? I think that's where I see a difference with it.
Well, I think for me also, part of the issue is that where is the Senate at? It's individual senators' responsibility to facilitate calm, rational dialogue. Where have they been? What are they doing? Why are they not talking about things rationally and de-escalating the fundamental media crisis we have? That's what their job is. That's why they're able to have such long terms, under their presumption that they're going to lead in rational discourse. That is their job. Their job is not to get people riled up, but they are not fulfilling that obligation, and that should be concerning. So the Senate isn't fulfilling what I consider a very serious, not only social obligation, but they also have the same obligation to do that legislatively. Or in other words, if they have that job to do legislatively, they have the same obligation to provide that service socially when the time calls for it. And I wonder why they're not doing that.
I don't know. Sean, were you going to say something there, man?
I say it all the time, Zig. We have the worst crop of elites in Western civilization since the Vikings invaded. I mean, like, this is the worst crop of elites I think you can find in the past 500-600 years. These people really are not good in a pinch. I'll say that. Most of these people who've been in charge of things most of my life, they're kind of okay regularly. They don't break stuff too often, but in a pinch, they've struggled, to be honest.
Well, and I don't think individual senators are necessarily bad people, but do they not understand what a senator is supposed to do? Like, yes, I have a master's degree, but it's not from an elite university. I didn't go to elite university with elite people. Like, why do these people not understand what senators are supposed to do? Senators are supposed to add rational discourse to help stop this. And I don't think, again, that it's because they're bad, but I don't know if they've read the right books. Have they read the Federalist Papers? Like, what in the world are these people reading? What are they doing?
No,
okay.
I'm only laughing that you say that, man, because this is not the first time in my short career, either on air with Talk Radio or doing something like this, where we've had this similar situation of like, we're doing the same things. We're doing the same things we're always doing. Can we just read the Federalist paper? We've had this argument 200 plus years ago, right? I mean, we've done this exact same thing 200 plus years ago, and maybe it's healthy for society to rehash that stuff every now and then. But let me hit a couple of Facebook comments, and we'll end on something that I don't know. I think it's just a little positive. You've probably seen this going around. Here's Kelly saying, oh yeah, HRC is testifying today. Awesome. Kelly said zig with a bunch of exclamation points. Absolutely 100, they say. Eric says the problem is that many of these protesters, including the rioters, see the Christian faith as another system, and a vast majority of that system gets mixed in with the idea of all these systems being just another example of white supremacy. That's a valid point, man. Okay, this idea of another system of white supremacy. The Nashville March was actually entitled such and such something breathe in fighting against white supremacy. That was the back tagline of that thing. So he's correct there. Judy says, yeah, I totally agree with this. But Dave, you need to chime in more often. Your statements compliment Grant's for sure. Dave's Shine's doing so much stuff behind the scenes here, man. It's hard for him to jump in every now and then. Shine, if we can though. Oh yeah, Eric said, and for the believers, we have to keep in mind Ephesians 6:12. Just felt the need to throw that in here. Ephesians 6:12. Eric says, for our struggle is not against flesh and blood, but against the rulers, against the authorities, against the powers of this dark world, and against the spiritual forces of evil in the heavenly realms. Go ahead and hit that Mixer comment, Shine.
Yeah, I want to thank the folks who've been on Mixer. It's fairly new for us, but Artie the Aardvark says there are some bad rogue elements who are living a lie, believing that the end justifies the means, and will do anything to achieve those ends. Artie also said society is working to isolate us better, to be able to control us and keep us in a bubble where God has no place in this message. And the mainstream media is at least partly responsible for these riots happening. That's from Artie. And thank you for also hosting us on your channel, Artie. That's awesome. And thank you to the folks on YouTube. There's at least been a few folks in there. Someone said, is this live? Yes. If you're watching on YouTube, we're live every morning, Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. Check us out. But thank you to all the Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, Mixer, everywhere. And also, Zig, man, you crushed it today, bro.
Yeah, you did, man. And let me say to whoever Artie the Aardvark is, the fact that back me up on this. The fact that someone would be willing to host a program like this on their own channel, the fact that we're devoting this entire thing to what we do to building out a community, the fact that someone's going to host this on their own channel is far cooler to me than any potential millions of followers that a YouTube channel has. Am I wrong? Like, I don't know, man.
Cool.
I'm just saying thank you. I'm just saying thank you, Artie the Aardvark. That is what this thing is. It's exactly why we're doing what we're doing, is for stuff like that, to spread messages of positivity, to come together, to figure this stuff out, to talk, to have dialogue, man, so that when we have disagreements, it's disagreements amongst friends and not enemies. From my boy Shine right there. Shine, you want to end on something positive real quick, man? It's about a 2-minute video. Oh, all right, he's already got the music going. Whatever, you can... All right, play that video.
I just shut the music off. We'll do whatever Grant wants to do.
Right below, Sean, right below the list of in the national stories, right below the list of see where it's like list of invocations of Insurrection Act. You'll see down there, and it's 2 steps down from this. A sheriff put down his baton to listen to protesters. There's a video posted on the Facebook. It's a heartwarming video. It says, you see that little link right there? Play that real quick, man. I just want to leave him on a positive note and ask for a little bit more of this as we're going forward. And maybe things are getting better. Did I just say better? Maybe things are about to get worse. I don't necessarily know. But just leave you with this type of note as we're exiting today, to try and just do a little bit more of this, man. Try and keep some of this stuff in the back of your mind. Try and drop your pride a little bit and hear the voice of the vulnerable and the wounded. Go ahead and play that, Sean.
Yeah, my man. Pastor Hawkins here. I'm just going to tell you, we want to be with y'all for real. So I took my helmet off and laid the batons down. Yeah. I want to make this a parade, not a protest. Come on. That's it. You got little ones here, you got dogs, so what's up? So listen, I'm just telling you, these cops love you. That cop over there hugs people, so you tell us what you need to do.
Walk with us! 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 Walk with us!
Let's walk with us! Let's walk!
Right, Shine. I don't know, man. I think that's the best way to end this program. As Shine's pulling up the outro exit music here. I'm telling you, man, I think that's what we need a little bit more of. Cops and protesters coming together, protecting. So it's a good way to book in this show of the National Guard troops protecting our inherent First Amendment rights to voice your opinion on something you disagree with, to protest in a peaceful manner. Bookending with this back end here of this guy saying, like, I want to make this a parade. I want to do this with y'all. We love y'all. We're part of the same community. We're trying to grow this thing together. We're trying to figure this out together. This is a small little example of what I think could possibly be the best way to solve some of this stuff. And I know I'm being a little bit too idealistic for some people, but I don't necessarily care at this point. Zig, buddy, we thank you so much for joining us this morning. Everything you do.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, man. Everything you do with Americans for Prosperity as well. And just for being a real friend, bro. Honestly. Like stealing that term from Zig. Yeah, one more time.
Hashtag real friends.
Hashtag real friends, man. Stealing that from Zig. That is Zig's coined term. Real friends is what we're making here on Real News. My name is Mr. Henry. For Zig and David Shine Thompson. Signing off for this morning. We'll be back tomorrow doing it big.